Welcome to the new episode. In the last episode, I showed you this brand new to me, this VIC-20 early Japanese-made U.S. market VIC-20, the one with the 500,000 series serial number. I've been looking forward to these forever, and I got this one, and it's really neat machine. It came with this super cool expansion box with an external power supply in it, and at the end of the last episode, I said, hey, this is really neat, but I kind of want this thing to be all original. So I said I might do a follow-up video and show you how I return this back to all original condition. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Stick around. I'll start by opening the VIC-20's case so we can get to the guts inside. So I don't know what this wire is. I didn't mention it in the last video. It's going to an RCA jack on the back of the case. I guess it's an audio output, but whatever it is, I'm going to remove that. I don't want that. And now I can remove the PCB from the bottom case half. Then we can start desoldering some stuff. For desoldering, I use this Hakko FR301 desoldering iron. It is wonderful. All right, I got the wiring harness out of there. Now, the next thing I'm going to deal with, these diodes. They don't belong here. You can see that big ugly solder blob. That's not factory. This has to go. With the diodes taken care of, I'm going to head up here to the other edge of the board and take care of whatever this mod was connected to the audio output here. I need to desolder these wires, and it's really close. I want to make sure I don't hit any of the other components on there, so gotta have to be really careful. All right, I got all the updated parts removed from the inside of the VIC-20. That basically consisted of this giant bin of wires here, nice coiled cable. This is what plugged into the external power supply box and connected power to the board. Again, the original VIC-20, the power supply was kind of split across. So the AC transformer, step-down transformer was in a box, and then inside it converted to DC, regulated it down to 5 volts. Well, this external one, it did everything in the external box. So all we needed was wires going to the inside. That's what that was. This was connected to an RCA jack that was sticking out of the back of the case. I didn't actually look where it was connected. I assume it was some kind of an audio output, but I just chopped that off. I wasn't as concerned with that. The other thing was, well, this cable tie that held that big power wire in place. And then there were these 2 diodes. Now, I don't know what they were there for. They were connected where the bridge rectifier would have been on the original VIC-20. I'm sure they weren't being used as a rectifier because that was all happening externally. Maybe they were there for over voltage protection, reverse voltage protection. Maybe they did nothing. I don't know. You saw them in the last video, so somebody out there is smarter than me and can take a guess at what they were doing. Let me know in the comments. So with all that out of the way, what's next? Well, if I want to put this all back to original, let's take a look at this. When I bought this, it showed up and I got a Commodore 64 box in the same package, and I thought, jackpot, I got a free C64 out of it. But if you look at the masking tape on the front, VIC-EX, this is just what the guy used to store the VIC expansion box. So if you look in there, well, that's what it is. The VIC expansion box is in there, but if I move this crud out of the way, you can see there were a few other goodies in here. There were a few programs on tape, Blue Meanies from Outer Space, VicTerm, which I love VicTerm. It really is. It's a cool program. I love running terminals on the VIC-20, because of that 22-column display. The later versions of this, I think, maybe there was all of them. I think it was the later versions, did a 40-column version. It's nowhere near as good. The original 22-column VicTerm is so hilarious logging into Unix systems or something where it should be an 80-column display, but you have this little quaint 22-column display with these huge blocky characters. Love VicTerm. Anyway, I digress. Here's the important part. This is the original guts from that VIC-20. It's the giant heat shield, the original linear voltage regulator, 5-volt voltage regulator. The original bridge rectifier is down here, still left screwed on there. The original smoothing capacitor is still laying there. So technically, I can put this all back to original. This is all the missing parts. A little twist tie on there that I don't need. I can cut that off. But this is kind of decision time. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me get this junk out of the way, and I'll show you what I mean. Or at least try to show you what I mean. Making a mess here. Sorry. Calm down. I have a whole room full of computers here. So when I do a repair, well, if I need to buy one capacitor, I don't buy one because chances are good if I need one, I have 19 VIC-20s in this room. Well, if I'm going to recap them, I just buy extra parts. So I have all of those parts on hand that I need. I don't have the heat shield, but I'd use the original heat shield, but I have capacitors. I have a replacement bridge rectifier, brand new from DigiKey, and this thing was on back order. I had to wait months for them to show up, but I bought a whole bag of those. And then the other thing I have is from EasySBC.com. They are replacements for the original 5-volt linear voltage regulator from the VIC-20. LM323, I think, is the part number. The replacements for the LM323, and these are switch mode voltage regulators, so they're still 5-volt voltage regulators. They're a drop-in replacement, and they generate way less heat. But if I put this in, it's not going to look original, right? The new capacitor, they aren't the same brand or anything. They're different colors. This looks way different. The bridge rectifier you won't even see, so that one doesn't matter. But do I want to replace it with brand new parts or put the 40-year-old parts in? Well, that's a decision you'd have to make. I'm going to make. I am going to put new parts in it. But the reason I'm doing that is because, well, while this thing, it's kind of a collector's item to me. It's the only early Japanese-made VIC-20 I have in my collection. it's not all that collectible. I mean, my VIC-1001 is the 399th made. This one is 12,000, whatever it was, 12,500 somethingth. So it's not really rare and collectible. It's just an early one. It's one I didn't have, and I want to use it. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to put brand new parts in it. It won't look identical, but that's okay. I'm not going to open it up again. And if I ever want to sell it, I'll save the original parts so I can give those to the new buyer, and they can choose to put them if they want. One last decision I'm going to make is I have several bins of capacitors, so I'm certain I have capacitors on hand if I wanted to recap that board, the rest of it, not just the one smoothing capacitor for the power supply. I may do that. I may not. I'm not one of the recap hysteria persons. Oh, I have to recap it. The world's going to end if I don't. But I mean, I have the thing open. I have the capacitors on hand. I might do it. It just depends if I'm lazy or not. So by the end of the video, you'll find out. Anyway, we'll get started putting these new parts in. All right, so here we go with basically everything we need other than the capacitor to get started. I'm going to separate this from the cartridge heat shield, which it's just these two screws. And they're not in there particularly tight. The bottom half's threaded, so there's no nut on the bottom. So you just have to unscrew them. Super easy. Look at that. All right. Once we're done with that, I'm going to hold those screws in there so I don't lose them. You can see the rectifier, it's on there. We're going to have to remove that also. Maybe I'll do that now too. From the factory, I think they used Loctite on this one. When they put it back there, they did not replace the Loctite because that came off pretty easily. Throw that aside, throw this aside. Now, this regulator, we're going to replace it with the Easy SBC switch mode regulator. So let's just get this off of there. And again, he was nice enough to just finger tighten this stuff. So just take a moment to get that nut. And washer. Okay, set that aside. And another nut and washer. And just remember the lock washer on top. And oh, this one has a lock washer on the top and the bottom. Okay. And if you look at the spacing here, you can see that the pins are offset on the PCB there. It really only fits one way. If you try to put it in this way, you're going to be way off, and you're going to say, oops, that ain't going to work. I guess if you shove it over there, maybe you can force it, but a little common sense at play there. It goes that way. So I'll put this little plastic business on the bottom there. Put this in here. All right, so we're ready to put, I think, now if I do this in the wrong order, that's okay, we'll live. But I think we're ready to put this on. Let's see, how does this fit? Yeah, it fits in front of there. Okay, yeah, this should be good. I think we're looking at the right stuff here, right? Yeah, that goes like that. This sets right on there. We do not need thermal paste with the switch mode regulators. They give off so much less heat that... Okay, so it goes right like that. Then we'll put the screws up from the bottom. So let me turn this over a little bit. It's hard to do this and be on camera. So my apologies that... There we go. Oops. Cut that corner a little bit. And I'm going to put this on here and get the nut on there at least finger tight. Just so it doesn't walk around on me. Then I'm going to put the screw up from the bottom for the other side. Again, try to do this on camera, not the easiest thing. There we go. Got that one in there. Lock washer. You don't want that walking away on us, right? All right. I don't know why there's a lock washer on it, honestly, but whatever. Finger tight. Did you see that or no? Oops. What are you doing here? And I mean, we're not working on a car here. You don't have to crank that down to like 100 foot-pounds or anything. All right, so cool. We're ready for the bridge rectifier now. Now, if you look on the top of this, let's see if I can show it to you. It shows you, there we go, positive, negative, AC, AC. And on the board, there is... Where is it? There's a little plus sign right next to that one. And there's a minus sign right next to that one. So where's the plus sign on here and the minus sign? You line those up. that's where that goes. And the way we'll solder after we get everything manually mechanically connected, because this screws to the bottom of this heatsink. So we'll get it all mechanically screwed together, and then we should be good to... Did I do this right? Yeah, that's right, I think. Is that right? This rectifier screws up through the bottom. So we're going to make sure we have it pointing the right direction there. Okay, there we go. I'm not going to make that super tight. All right. Now, do I have that lined up the right way? I sure hope so. Yeah, the corner's up there. So, let's get that lined up. On the board. How are we looking? Okay, we're getting there. Get this through that hole. Okay, there we go. That's what we're looking like now. Now we gotta solder it. Looks pretty good. What do we think? We're there. It's on there. Oh, I wasn't focused. How's that look? Good? I wasn't focused for the whole thing. You missed all that. Oh well. Well, what I got here is the rectifier soldered in over here, the regulator soldered in there, so that's a good start. Chop those pins off of there. All right, there we go. Now I need a capacitor. This, get pliers to do this. Don't just bend it by hand. It looks way better if you use pliers. There, and I'm just going to ballpark it. What do you think? Right about there. How's that? Good? Let's find out. And I think it goes this way. Holy cow. Precision, wasn't it? Man. Whenever you're soldering, Blue Tack, the miracle fastener of the 2020s. Jam it on there, make sure it's straight. All right, yeah, then it can't move. Then I'll straighten that pin out, that's a mess. Then let's get that soldered in place. What do we think? Camera's in my way. Looking good in the neighborhood. All right. Trim that off of there. Trim that one. Looks like brand new. All right, last thing. These, you want to remove these. That was on there to guide the cartridge port expander PCB into place, but we don't need them. We want to be able to put real cartridges in there. So let's see if I can show you any kind of a decent angle. There's a flathead screw here and a nut on the other side. I'm not going to do anything. There we go. I'm going to hold the nut with my finger and see if I can get that the whole way off of there. It'd be a small miracle if I do. No. Almost. Can you see? I don't know. Can you see down in there? Okay, that's off. I got another one over here. Get my finger on there. Okay. washer on there somewhere. I hear it jangling around in there. I'm going to leave that there. There we go. Up, lock washer. Is that everything? Yeah, there we go. That's all those parts. And if I, Daniel's son, leg sweep that out of the way, I can show you the finished product. You can see the cartridge port. It looks pretty. All the parts I added, they look pretty. What else? Well, I said I might recap the thing. I don't know. How many are there? 1, 2... Tell you what, we'll do that later. Let's get this back in its case and test it. Yeah, I think we're ready to jam this back in its case, test it, see if it works, and then maybe I'll recap it. Probably not. Got all my screws over here and here. I always do that. That way I don't lose stuff, you know. That said, there's a screw in there. I don't know where it goes. So maybe I do lose stuff. I don't know what that one is. And I put all the screwdrivers. I think I was done. So when you're screwing these back in here, I mean, you're screwing into 40-year-old plastic. I always do a little reverse and start turning. And I mean, when it gets even slightly snug, I'm done. You try to crank these down, you're just going to rip the 40-year-old plastic threads right out of here. We don't want to do that. So, see what I mean? Little reverse. You'll feel the thread drop in. Because if you don't do that reverse and wait for the thread to drop in, that's another one. You just start cranking it, you're going to pull 40-year-old plastic threads right out of there. Faster than you can say Jack Robinson. That holds the little side piece in there, the side panel. Okay. Alright, now we need the case. Take my wrist strap off. I'm not going to be touching any sensitive electronics for the rest of this. Alright, case. Oh, you can see. So for this, rats. Just cut that for now. I don't know what this is. I guess audio. But I'm just going to chop it off. And this piece of duct tape here, that's a spare fuse he duct taped in there, so nothing wrong with that. This is an early case, so it has the two hook design there. I'm going to try to be very, very careful to not break the hooks, because this is old plastic. Put that LED back on there, maybe. There you go. Everything you do on camera is twice as hard as when you're doing it not on camera. That capacitor's bent over there, possibly interfering with the... Come on, man. What are we doing here? Okay. Now, try to drop that down. Get our hooks in there. Are the hooks lined up? Something isn't lined up. What's not lined up? We got to be very... There we go. If there's any force there, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, that's nice. You can see there's no gaps or anything, so that was a perfect installation there. Now, put the last of the screws in, and let's test this thing. Same thing with these case screws, man. They're plastic. Plastic 40-year-old threads. I mean, you see what I'm doing here? I got a fingertip on that screwdriver. The moment I feel resistance, bink, stop. And are you done hearing about that yet? Probably. Last screw. There we go. Our VIC-20 is back to all original looking, except this. Irritating. Hate when people drill holes in cases. Could probably use a retro bright. I've never retro brighted anything in my life. If it works, it's good enough. I clean the big ugly dirty stuff off, so I'll probably take some Windex to this just to get the ugly stains off of it, but I've never retro brighted anything. We're going to take this back to the VIC-20 corner of the room and see if it works. Exciting. Alright, we're over here in the VIC-20 corner of the room. Bring this VIC-20 in here. Not like that. It will replace the top case at some point, but anyway, for now I'm not going to worry about that. Let's get it plugged in. We got video. For the power supply, this is just the standard VIC-20 power supply. You don't have to be so worried like you are with the C64. For these early VIC-20s anyway, it's just an AC step-down transformer in there. There's very little that can break. So the regulator and everything you just saw, that's all inside the case. There's nothing in there but a winding on a transformer. So I've not seen one of those break ever in my life. All right, we've got it plugged in. We've got video. Let's see what happens. There we go. So that is the same VIC-20. The external power supply is removed. Original guts back in it, and there we go. We got a working VIC-20 now. So I think that's all for this video.